Know your place, Arkansas. This is what you should be happy with, Arkansas. These are your limitations, Arkansas. That didn't feel like what's happening, but that's what the national media has been telling you for the last couple of decades. We're going to talk about that more in depth. Danny West is also going to join us on today's episode of HawgSports Live. And what's up, everybody? This is Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. Before we get started, I want to remind you there's plenty of ways to watch and listen. You can always tune in on Facebook Live. Be sure to follow the page if you haven't done so already. And give us a like, share it with somebody you think might like it. Also available on YouTube. Subscribe to that channel. Hit the notifications bell so you're alerted anytime we upload new videos. Throw us a thumbs up there as well. Also available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere else you can think of to find your favorite podcast. Please throw us that 5-star review if you haven't done so already. Hog Sports is just $1 right now for your first month. HawgSports.com. All right. That is what you have heard from the national media for years. Arkansas can't do this. This is what Arkansas is. I can remember I got so furious after the Brett Bielema firing and the coaching search that was coming up, and everybody on ESPN was telling Arkansas what they should be doing, what they should be happy with, to know their place, know the pecking order. No, that's not what's happening here. And I'm talking football, basketball, and, of course, baseball. Baseball we know. But basketball, what they're doing right now is unbelievable. Making it to the Elite Eight for a second straight year. Obviously, they got bounced, but not a lot of teams make it to the Elite Eight. If you want to find out what happens when teams make it to the Elite Eight for a third time, which is rare but happens, which Arkansas is going to try to do next year, read Danny West's article on Hog Sports. Again, we're going to get to Danny in a little bit to talk some recruiting because the evaluation period is coming up, the first ever evaluation period ever at Arkansas. We're going to discuss that. But before we do that, we got to talk a little bit about this Razorback basketball program and what has happened. Obviously, Arkansas just lost recently to Duke in the Elite Eight. Duke also subsequently lost to North Carolina, and it's Kansas, North Carolina in the national championship game tonight, unless it's Monday. So for those of you watching later, this show's being recorded on Monday. Anthony Black is the latest high school commitment. We're going to talk about transfer portal stuff here in a minute, but 6'7", 185-pound point guard, a guy that really started to, the last couple of years move up the rankings. Number 14 overall prospect in the country, number 1 point guard on 24/7 Sports, number 2 player overall in Texas. The composite has him number 22 overall. What an incredible addition. One of 3 McDonald's All-Americans that Arkansas is adding in next year's class. Nick Smith also played in the McDonald's game. I thought was cool about the game watching him. Now, he missed a lot of shots. He was very aggressive, probably more aggressive than he would normally be. He had that spin move that finished with a floater that I thought was just fantastic. Everybody talking all week about Nick Smith. He's the guy that all the scouts are talking about. In fact, one of the announcers said he would take him number 2 overall. 6'4" guard, 6'9" wingspan, can really do anything. I mean, he was even a late addition to the slam dunk contest and probably should have won it. I say that. There's the person who won it was a girl, and she was, incredible that she can even dunk. There was a few years ago when no women were dunking at all, and now you see it happen a good bit. So, but as far as the men go, he won the slam dunk contest. Jordan Walsh is the other. Jordan didn't have a great game in the McDonald's game, but if you watch, he was on TV a lot this past weekend. One game doesn't really change my opinion. To me, you really got to be aggressive in the McDonald's game if you want to get yours. Dribbled the ball off his foot a couple of times, looked really nervous. Even in the slam dunk contest before that, he missed all of his dunks. He was really ambitious with that, trying to jump over 4 people. The guy's got a 41-inch vertical at 6'7", a 7'3" wingspan. Number 20 ranked player in the country. Number 6 small forward. Number 2 in Texas. That's on 24/7 Sports. The composite actually has him a little bit higher, number 18 overall. That doesn't change my opinion at all at Jordan Walsh. He's going to be a finisher at Arkansas. He looks like a high jumper. That's what his physique is right now. He'll continue to add some weight, fill out his body a little bit, but not too much. Don't mess with him too much because he's going to be a finisher. You could see a lot of alley-oops, maybe like as many as you saw back in the day with Kareem Reed and Derek Hood. Could be a big finisher for Arkansas. And, that's not even to get in. Everybody talks about those guys, but you also got Darian Ford, a number 57 ranked player in the country out of Magnolia. A lot of years, this would be your headline guy. This would be the headliner in your class. I mean, he's a thick-bodied, kind of a different style of guard. Barry Dunning, Joseph Pinion. Dunning's number 85 ranked player in the country. Pinion's number 88 overall. So some nice additions from the high school ranks. And then Trevon Brazile popped for Arkansas. I mean, this is an intriguing guy right here. 6'9", 215 pounds, rim protector, super long and athletic. Small forward, power forward. I mean, positionless, really, in a lot of ways. But this is a guy who was, just a few years ago was 6'3". When he was being recruited, when he was ranked like number 189 prospect in the country, not super highly recruited, but a guy with a lot of potential, but was a late bloomer, was like 6'6", from what Curtis tells me, in high school when he was being recruited. Now he's 6'9", 215. Long arms, really athletic. A guy that should really help them. Numbers weren't just eye-popping or anything, but a guy that is viewed as having tremendous upside. He was actually re-ranked. Just to give you an idea, he was re-ranked as a 4-star prospect, number 3 guy in the transfer portal right now. Averaged 21.5 minutes, 6.6 points, 5.1 rebounds, 1.9 blocks per game, 33% from three-point range. And, his best basketball, according to everybody, is ahead of him. His last game against LSU had 15 points and 8 rebounds. Missouri wasn't very good this year. Obviously, they fired Quanzo Martin. Now, with the additions, you also have some subtractions. Obviously, I think, all expected J.D. Note to declare for the NBA draft. There were some rumors floating around here and there that, maybe he'll come back. Maybe there's an NIL deal out there for him. But with J.D. being as prolific as he was this year, being already a fifth-year guy, you're talking about coming back for another year, you kind of got to get on. If you're a guy that has pro potential, you got to get on with it. And that's just kind of the way it is. You don't see a lot of guys with, that put up the numbers that he puts up that are still just hanging around in college. So it makes sense to me for him to go ahead and move on. And Arkansas is going to be fine. I mean, J.D. Note was fantastic this year, especially, middle, late part of the year, like the Kentucky game and stuff. He was doing some really, really impressive things. You're never going to see a more aggressive player than Note. And I'll say this about him also. It's always frustrating when they're, a guy's super talented and everybody's like, he's so talented, but he's not aggressive. He doesn't take charge, and very rarely did Note do that. There were a couple games where can't seem to get going. But for the most part, every game, J.D. Note was attack mode, 24/7 attack mode. Great Razorback player, extremely aggressive, 17.5 points per game, 5.25 rebounds, 4.25 assists. Is that right, in the NCAA tournament? Yeah. Strong finish for him. I mean, there was the New Mexico game. I mean, there's some games where it wasn't just wow, the second half of Vermont, he certainly exploded. But Arkansas doesn't get where they are without him. Some other departures, I don't think anybody was expecting K.K. Robinson to stick around. A very highly regarded guy as a recruit, but just never seemed to crack the lineup, never got onto the floor. When he did, it wasn't just amazing or anything, I think that he can help somebody somewhere, but it just wasn't working out. When you look at the future at Arkansas, who they're bringing in, it kind of felt like the same thing. And people talk all this about, Arkansas needs this. I've seen a lot of people say, Arkansas, they just need to go get a veteran guard who can come in and help these other guys. A veteran experienced guard, anybody that's good, I don't know that that's happening. Are you looking at Arkansas and saying, I'm a senior, I'm transferring, I want to end up at Arkansas, and play behind Nick Smith and Anthony Black? I don't know if that's in the cards for Arkansas. Not that Arkansas, if it was a need in the transfer portal, they'd go out and get one of the top guys at the position group. There's no question about that. I'm not saying Arkansas couldn't do that, but I'm just saying when you look, there's only so many spots on the floor, and Muss is still going to play 8. As much talent as he brings in here, he's still going to play 8 guys. I think we've learned that so far. It's not going to be like it was with Nolan, where he subs 5 in, takes the starters out. It's not going to be like that under Muss. It just isn't. So you lose KK Robinson, expected. Chance Moore, obviously expected. I don't even know if Chance Moore got in. 5 games this season, barely played. That was not unexpected at all. There are some other guys. I mean, I'm not going to lie. We have stories in our admin on guys entering the transfer portal that haven't done it yet. Just ready. We call those shells. Just ready to go whenever it happens. Moore was he was a top 100 prospect. But guys want to play, and I don't blame him for transferring. Curtis Wilkerson's broken down the latest Arkansas basketball scholarship distribution for 22-23. Right now, Arkansas is at 13 scholarship players. You've got Devo Davis, Nick Smith, Darian Ford, Anthony Black, Audis Toney. Now, we don't know if Toney's going to stay. You know, he's a fifth-year guy. He may want to move on. He's got 1 year remaining because of the COVID rule. I think we'd all say, you know, if you're a Razorback fan, you got to be like, hey, bring it back. Come on back. Jackson Robinson, Joseph Pinion, Jalen Williams, who's another guy who's got 3 years remaining if he wants it. But I think Jalen, to me, this is my opinion, okay? Like, and I'll tell you, like, if I think a guy should probably go, then I'll tell you. I do think Jalen Williams would be well served by coming back another year, okay? Continue to work on his three-point shot, playing with his back to the basket, those types of things. He made so much improvement from the start of his freshman year to the end of his freshman year, and then again from the start of the sophomore year to about the middle part of his sophomore year. I mean, he really took off, started getting all those double-doubles, like didn't have any career double-doubles, and then started getting them like, I don't know, he had like 15 last season. They all came in the second half of the season. So the things I think he could really improve on, he could become a better three-point shooter. He lines it up. You know, you rarely see one just off the side of the backboard or something. If he misses on target. He needs to get a little bit more arc on his shot. It's a little flat, and I understand it's hard for, a 6'10" guy, but get a little bit more arc on that shot, and he's going to splash a lot more three-pointers in the future. I really think he can be over 30% and be, a guy that you actually have to guard out there. Not that you don't, because he's made some big shots, but improve that, and he's got a real future. I mean, we've been talking about, first-round possibility for Jalen Williams. So I do think he would be of benefit to come back. Connor Vanover, I used not to talk about guys, I don't want to speculate on who might transfer, but in this day and age, you have to. It's part of the job now. Connor Vanover obviously did not play a lot. He's got 2 years of eligibility remaining. I mean, that's a guy to keep an eye on. We're going to keep an eye on Connor Vanover. Barry Dunning also joining in on the class. We talked about him. Jordan Walsh, Trevon Brazil. Okay, so that's 13 scholarship guys, not including Lawson Blake and Cade Arbogast. So who are walk-ons? Played a little bit. So as I mentioned, what does Arkansas need in the transfer portal? We're going to see more guys leave. I mean, Arkansas is still looking at their options in the portal. We're going to see more guys leave. And they were bringing in guys going over the numbers in the portal, already. So LSU has lost everybody, by the way, either to the transfer portal or to the NBA draft. Everybody is gone. The number one player is Brandon Murray, shooting guard from LSU. Terrence Shannon is a guy that I think is intriguing. Small forward from Texas Tech. Terrence Shannon was once projected as a first-round pick in the upcoming NBA draft, but the season didn't go as expected. He enters the portal this week and has been a hot name with some of the nation's top programs reach out. He's a long and athletic wing who can slash, defend, has improved as a shooter. I mean, he's 38% from three-point range. I mean, with the new three-point line, I think that's pretty good. Everybody's shooting so much farther out. You used to always kind of look for guys shooting over 40, but 38%, pretty good. His numbers did dip a little bit last year. I think he averaged over 12 points a game last year, but this is a guy to me, like who could I pick out for Arkansas? He'd be up there. And number 3 is Brazil, who Arkansas has. It's Fardaws Amack from Utah Valley, who is also at Mercer. 18.9 points per game, 13.6 rebounds, 1.7 assists per game, 6'11", 245. This is a guy you'd say, okay, him and Jalen Williams. That would change the way you think of everything about what your idea of the perfect lineup would be right now. But you get a guy like this, and He's heavily covered. Arkansas is in the mix, but you get a guy like that, you don't worry about Jalen Williams getting 2 early fouls. You don't worry about that. Which, by the way, the NCAA, for Arkansas's benefit, needs to wait 1 more year before they do that plant foot. The plant foot on the charge, when the plant foot goes down, they need to wait 1 more year before they institute that. First of all, I think that's going to be a problem. Like you're watching both people's feet. You're watching his feet to get set outside. You're watching his feet, his plant foot, as a ref. That's to me seems difficult versus just taking off, when the guy takes off. So wait 1 more year till Jalen Williams has moved along. Let him have 1 more year of taking 50 charges. Anyway, there's a lot of other guys obviously in the transfer portal, but those are a couple of guys that intrigue me. I'm not like Arkansas needs to go get a point guard, like a veteran point guard, and maybe they do, but I just don't see Arkansas being attractive in that sense when you have 2 guys like Nick Smith and Darian Ford too. I mean, he's combo guard. Nick Smith, Anthony Black. I mean, all those guys. Devo Davis is coming back. I mean, so like, where are you talking like you're going to have another guy come in and get in that battle? I just don't see that. Maybe you get a guy, but I don't know if you get a guy that like who's a veteran, experienced guy that's like the missing piece of the puzzle from a group of 5 starters. I just don't know if that's necessarily in the cards. All right. I think we're going to jump over to Danny West now because I want to talk about the spring evaluation period a little bit, which is coming up. And it's interesting because this is the first ever evaluation period for Arkansas under Sam Pittman. The first spring evaluation period ever because it's been canceled because of COVID. They haven't been able to get on the road. Now, for those of you who don't understand the rules on the spring evaluation period, okay, you get starting April 15th, so today's April 4th, so not far off, April 15th, you get 168 evaluation days. Okay, so what is an evaluation day? An evaluation day is one coach going out on the road. They can visit each prospect school 2 times. They can go for an athletic visit and an academic/athletic visit. Okay, so they can go like check out the academics of the athlete and watch them, and also go and just check them out as an athlete. Okay. They can't have a conversation. This isn't like where Sam Pittman Sam Pittman's not even going, but like this isn't like where a coach can go out and like strike up a conversation and talk about how much we want you, something like that. You can't do that. The most you could do is say, hey, I'm Coach Barry Odom from Arkansas. We're just here to look at you. Nice to meet you. Move on. That's all. Just a pleasantry. That's it. Because you can't just the reason that's there is like you don't want to like have a coach just stonewall a kid, like a kid comes up and he's like, I can't talk to you, But basically you can tell them that like, hey, it's nice to meet you. The NCAA rules prevent me from having a conversation, but we'll be looking at you, and that's it. That's about all you can do. So this is a time for evaluation, and it's something that's been really missing. I mean, obviously you got to get out and see these guys in person, talk to people who, they're academic counselors, they're teachers, and all those things. You can do that kind of stuff. So that's an important time, and Arkansas is finally going to be able to do it. So 168 evaluation days. It runs from April 15th to March 31st. That doesn't mean that you have to just jump out on April 15th and go start doing it. You've got plenty of time, because say you send 7 coaches out on the road, okay, on one day. 7 coaches, that's 7 days. That counts as 7 days. Now, they can go to multiple high schools and all that stuff, but it's 7 days worth of evaluations when you send 7 coaches out. So you can see how, if you send a coach out every day, excluding the weekends, then you're looking at, 24 days and you've used it all up, So you don't have to necessarily jump out on April 15th. What we've seen in the past with past staffs is they'll use that April 15th day to see in-state guys, because they'll be in the middle of spring football. They're gonna have an open fan practice on April 16th. You can come and watch them practice on the 16th. So, do you really want to send all your coaches out on the road right then? You don't have to. You got plenty of time. So anyway, that's just a kind of a rundown of the spring evaluation period. All right, let's get to Danny West. We'll talk about that a little bit with him and and just the latest stuff going on with recruiting. I think maybe we'll get into a lot of quarterback discussion today. He just released the Big Red board for quarterbacks. There's a big-time guy planning on visiting this weekend. Just came away from Miami, too. Let's see what Danny has to say. Danny, how you doing, man?
What's up?
Oh, not much. Just talking a little bit. I just broke down the spring evaluation period, just the rules surrounding it, 168 days, the time period, all that kind of stuff. But just wanted to get your thoughts a little bit before we talk a little bit about quarterback recruiting. Just your thoughts on the evaluation period, because it's the first one under Sam Pittman. When do you have an idea of when they plan to start getting out and stuff?
Not yet. I think they're going to, from what I've heard, they're going to wait until after spring ball to do most of it, which is really no surprise. I mean, you think about these, I think part of bringing in 5 prospect dates in January and March kind of allows you to really focus on spring ball once you get into it. I think that's important. Now, that's not to say they're not bringing in kids for spring practices. They are. You've seen them out there. But, yeah, I think they're really trying to focus in on spring ball, and then they're going to attack it, full forward after spring wraps up. So what do I expect? I think I'm really not sure what to expect, to be honest with you. I told Blair Angulo last week, I did his podcast. He was asking me, what do you expect? And I said, man, it's the first one, so who knows really, but I would expect a lot of Southeast. I think they'll be in Florida, Georgia, and Alabama quite a bit. Obviously, the state of Texas, and they're going to take care of the home state too. I'm sure they're going to be all across Arkansas. So, how they plan to do it and when they really go full force in it, I don't know yet, to be honest with you.
So, Danny, today you came out with and by the way, speaking of spring football, I will get to that after Danny West is finished. I didn't forget about talking about spring football. Just the order of things, how we wanted to get to them.
You're just putting that on the back burner. Nobody cares about football anymore.
Well, we had to talk. We had to talk about basketball because, I mean, Danny, I think basketball could win the national championship. Just take it aside for a minute. I think they could win the national championship next year.
Put it out there, Biddy.
I am putting it out there. I understand that it takes a little bit of luck along the way. I get that you got to find some luck here and there. Everybody does, but man, they've got a shot. And I've even seen them projected on 24/7 Sports came out with a video the other day with their preseason way too early top 5 for 22-23, and they put it out on our site, and I'm looking at it, and they go through. I'm like, well, hell, they didn't even list Arkansas unless they're going to list them number 2 or number 1, and then they're not number 2, and I'm like, holy, you know what?
Holy what now?
But I agree, they have a shot at it. I mean, depending on some things that come back.
KU all year. Now, y'all know I watch quite a bit of them because of my wife.
Yeah.
Dude, I think Arkansas would beat KU. I truly believe that. And here they are. They've got a really good shot to win it tonight, I think. And I don't think they're the best team. So, I mean,
you got to have luck.
Man. You got to have luck. It's all about matchups. That's what I learned anything this year. Shoot, we've heard it our whole life. But the tournament really is about matchups. And KU got really good ones. For whatever reason, Carolina's got Duke's number.
Yeah,
that's a good matchup for them. In a close game, they know how to win it. So it's not always about the most talented. We've seen that time and time again. But I'm with you. I cannot disagree. I think they've got a shot.
I mean, I just feel like you keep knocking at the door like they have. You keep knocking. That's something that I've always said. And then you bang your way through. And, I mean, next year's roster just looks – really dangerous. I mean, and depending on what happens in the portal, there's still some movement to be done. But man, they got a shot. I really think they do. It's exciting. It really is. I kind of opened the show, Danny, just talking about, what the national media has told you forever about. This is what you are. This is, you're Arkansas. You can't do this. You can't do that. You should be happy with this. And it doesn't feel like that. It feels like I want to buy stock in Arkansas right now.
That's right. Yeah, it's funny. The funny thing about Arkansas is they hate you when you're down, and they hate you even more when you're up.
Yeah.
They're going to hate you regardless, so you might as well win.
Because you proved them wrong.
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
So, Danny, for Arkansas to continue to take steps forward, and I'm going to talk about this football schedule a little bit coming up next year and some other things that I've noticed in the spring. But when we look at the future of Arkansas sports, quarterback is extremely important. And you just came out with a big red board for quarterbacks, and there's a really important visitor coming in this weekend. A guy that's going to be really tough to get. There's other guys, like we love Malachi Singleton, both of us do. Avery Johnson's another. But just, where's Arkansas stand right now in quarterback? What's coming up on the horizon for them?
It's the most intriguing quarterback search, if you want to call it that. I'm calling it a search. They went without one last year. Mm-hmm. That's extremely rare for Arkansas. The last time that happened was 2012, so 10 years ago, over 10 years if you go by class. But it's extremely rare, and it's extremely important to get it right, because right now you've got 3 scholarship guys. You keep up with that. If I'm not mistaken, there's 3. And there's a gap there, and at some point you've got to go out and get a guy that you feel great about. I think they're after the right ones, but it's still, we're at the first part of April here, still not very clear as to who the guy might be. Mm-hmm. You've talked about Avery Johnson forever. He's been here, I want to say 3 or 4 times now. Malachi Singleton's been here twice, once for a game, once for a prospect day. Mm-hmm. That's one that, man, I think you would have to feel really good about. I know people only look at the stars, mm-hmm. and I get that, but like I said, I think you need to go watch his film if you haven't already. But Central Florida,
he's coming back here, right? He's coming back this month.
Back, probably in the summer, if I had to guess. I know he wants to come back for a game, but he's a guy I don't think he'll ever make it into the season uncommitted.
Yeah. I thought he might be coming in this month, later this month or something. But
he was initially it's kind of a funny deal with Malachi. We went all winter thinking he had been telling me I'm going to be there in April. Mm-hmm. And then they kind of expedited that, brought him in March 5th. So I said, okay, look out now. If they're moving this thing along rather quickly, then it's probably time to pay attention to this. Mm-hmm. I thought he might commit during that last trip, Trey. I really did. I was kind of expecting it. He didn't. So he's still taking visits. I think he's a guy they would take right now if he called and wanted to commit. I think they'd take him. But you mentioned the 5-star coming in, Jaden Rashada.
Yeah. And I just want to say this real quick, Danny, that out of the guys that Jaden Rashada is not I wouldn't say he's a pipe dream or anything, but he's that's reaching for the stars. It's a little bit of a reach. Right. Yeah. He's all the way out in California. He did have a good trip to Miami, but out of the guys that you feel like, okay, there's some strong interest being reciprocated. Arkansas is really interested. Singleton, I think, is the guy I love most.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, let's talk about. Go ahead, Danny. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk.
There's one more. I talked to Jabari Johnson over the weekend, 6', 200 out of Tacoma, Washington. Now, you want to talk about a long way?
Yeah.
Again, we're not calling them pipe dreams, but. Boy, that's a long way, buddy. Mm-hmm. So he told me he's going to be here soon. He hasn't locked in that final date, but I fully expect him to be here. I think he's going to come in and visit, and that's part of it. I think they're being patient, very thorough. I think they want to get a look and try to get some of these kids on campus before they go full-fledged. This is our guy. You know what I mean? So, and why not? Like I said, there's a gap there. You've got to get it right. So I think they're doing a good job of being diligent.
Now, Rashada is pretty much a take for anybody that's not, I guess, in the Arch Manning sweepstakes. But Rashada is, he's a 5-star on 24/7 Sports Composite, very highly ranked guy. And he just visited Miami, as I mentioned. Really liked the area, really, loved the surroundings and everything. But his plan is to come to Arkansas this weekend. What do we know about this kid? And obviously, it's a long way.
Well, I'm not 100% sure it's happening this weekend. I think the 16th could be one. I know his teammate, we haven't even mentioned the 4-star receiver, Rasheed Williams from Pittsburgh, California. Mm-hmm. I think they could be coming together, and I think that could be the 16th, unless I'm missing something this morning.
So, the article that I read on him after his Miami visit was he didn't say he's trying to work out the visit for this weekend, is how he put it. So
gotcha. Yep. So
maybe it's just not solidified.
Yeah, I could see that, but they're definitely looking at these next 3, the 9th, 16th, and 23. Like I said earlier, that's not to say you won't see guys show up on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but it seems to me they're trying to steer most of these guys on the Saturday scrimmage type situations.
You want to talk 2026 quarterbacks, Danny? Because they're
Yeah, why not?
I mean, they're on 2026 guys coming out of junior high.
Yeah, it's a different one, man. I mean, and in all seriousness, we try to be careful when you've got one that young. I mean, but I know who you're talking about, Kane Archer from Greenwood. He's got all the characteristics of a guy who's going to be really, really big time. I know people have started to learn about him.
Yeah,
just a super talented kid. He's big for that age. He's filled out. Looks like $1 million for an 8th grader.
6'1", 185. Yep.
Michigan and Missouri have already offered this kid, and I think he's mature from my dealings with him. I think he's off to a good start and how to approach it and how to handle it. So I think he can handle it. But again, man, that's awfully early. I will tell you, he told me last week playing for the home state school would be a dream come true. So in about 10 years from now, whenever he graduates, keep that in mind.
Yeah, exactly. But, yeah, I mean, I've seen the video on him. You can tell he can really spin it, and already got good size, 6'1", 185 for that young. I mean, and Greenwood has a pretty solid reputation for producing good quarterbacks. Tyler
Wilson, I looked it up the other day.
Daniel
I counted
Stegall.
7 or 8, including walk-ons, which, Grant Morgan was a walk-on. He's an All-American. So, Lucas Miller was a pretty good player too. So, they've had some good ones, and he could be next in line.
Yep. All right, Danny. Anything else you want to add? Anything we're looking out for?
No, that's pretty much it. I'm working on a more expanded visit list for those dates I talked about, April 9th, 16th, and 23rd. In between there, April 18th, I do want to mention this kid is probably one to keep an eye on. Joshua Manning, 2023, so one a little more current. He's a wide receiver out of Lee Summit, Missouri, going to be coming up on the 18th. That's 2 days after the spring game, practice, whatever you want to call it. So a Monday, I believe, maybe a Sunday. No, it'd be a Monday, April 18th. So keep an eye on that name, Joshua Manning. That's one they recently offered, and been looking forward to getting him down here. So I think they're going to be in the mix there.
All right, Danny. Appreciate you, man.
You bet. We'll see you.
All right, everybody. That's Danny West. Again, you can follow Danny at DannyWest247. Does pretty much all of our football recruiting coverage at HawgSports.com. Most of his articles are VIP, so keep in mind that it's just $1 right now for your first month at HawgSports.com, HAWGsports.com. Go check out Danny's stuff right there. All right. Spring football time. Let's talk a little spring football. So Sam Pittman, we spoke to him on Thursday. We weren't able to watch practice on Saturday. They scrimmaged. We'll find out some more stuff on Tuesday from how everything went with that. But Arkansas practicing, most likely they didn't come out with a schedule, but almost certainly going to go Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, which would be the 9th, I believe, and then repeat it the next week. And then, of course, the 16th is that fan day that they're talking about, the open practice, Hog Fest, all that kind of stuff, which they're not going to have a red-white game, but it's going to be some scrimmaging, obviously, probably just not like wearing a red team and a white team jersey and marching up and down the field, but like doing situational stuff, working red zone, working third down situations, all those kinds of different things. Okay. So it should be entertaining, though, because it'll probably be a little bit more competitive than you would see, for the first team offense going against what's really the third team defense, because you got to rotate guys in and out. So that's kind of how it works. They say first team versus second team, but that's not exactly right how it usually is. So this should actually be maybe give people a little bit better idea of things. So we got to talk about Malik Hornsby playing wide receiver, okay? Something that I didn't think would really happen just because Hornsby entered the transfer portal, okay? He entered the transfer portal, and so you're just like, well, I mean, obviously he didn't like his situation, but as Pittman said, he entered the portal, and his policy, obviously if you enter the portal, you can't come back. But that's if you're missing stuff, like you're transfer in middle of the season, you don't like your option, you decide you want to come back. That's not what happened with Hornsby. So that's where it's a little bit different, because we've been asked about that a little bit. So that's where it's a little bit different. Same with Jalen St. John. Neither of those guys missed anything, had a change of heart, came back out. It wasn't like I don't like my options and stuff. So when they talked to him about coming back, they said, hey, we're going to give you a chance to compete for the starting job with KJ, which is going to be a tall task. We also we want to work you some at wide receiver. Okay, so that was in the cards when they talked to him about coming back. So from what I've seen with him at wide receiver so far, they look like they've been doing this for a good bit. They came out on Tuesday, first day, the first practice, first team rep, and had Hornsby at wide receiver. He didn't catch a pass for a while because they motioned him in the backfield, ran him at quarterback. He eventually did. And then Thursday's practice, he came out again with the first group. And I thought looked really good. I mean, the first pass was like 45 yards down the sideline against Dwight McGlothern, who's in coverage, good coverage. KJ just put it perfectly, and he made a great catch. I mean, I could really see this being a factor. And the thing that you have to have happen, okay, this is where the concern is, because we saw KJ have to come out of several games last year. I mean, he ran the ball for 600-something yards. He gets dinged up every once in a while. He has to come out. He came out of the Penn State game for a lot. So the thing that would be concerning is Malik being your backup quarterback. If he were to take a shot and have an injury or something because he's playing wide receiver and not quarterback, and then KJ has something happen to him, then you start looking down the line and you're like, all right, this is the third quarterback. So that's where Lucas Coley and Cade Fortin come in. Do you trust them? Do you trust those guys enough to where you can risk putting Malik Hornsby's speed at wide receiver? And I'll say this, I've liked what I've seen out of Coley. I don't think the last two practices that I watched, he had very good practices. He had like 4 turnovers. He had a fumble, 3 interceptions over two practices, but he's been better for longer stretches. He just had a couple of incidents, I think. I don't think it's like a trend or anything, but that's popped up to me. But I think that Coley has a future at Arkansas, but I've also liked what I've seen out of Cade Fortin as he's come along. I thought early on, kind of wondering, and he's a guy that we hadn't talked about, he's the walk-on transfer from South Florida. I thought early he looked a little bit skittish at times. But as we've gone on, he's looked a lot more crisp and like he has better understanding. You see him, they do that red zone work a lot, throwing a lot of touchdown passes, knowing where to go with the ball. You see him making what seems to be better reads, throwing the ball well. Fortin is a guy that, with his maturity, could possibly make you feel a little bit better about Hornsby over there at wide receiver. I still think you're going to see, and like we talk about wide receiver, 85% of his reps are coming at quarterback still. It's not like he's moved to wide receiver, okay? That's not the situation that's going on right now. All right, he's working at wide receiver. How can they get him on the field? And they're motioning him in and out, motioning KJ, out to wide receiver, which that's a little scary with KJ too. You don't want him taking any shots. He did catch a pass the other day on Tuesday, but it looked like he was like the 4th option. So, but anyway, like Hornsby over there, working some at wide receiver. I just didn't think it was possible because, in this day and age, you can just jump right in the portal. It's easy. Trey Knox was involved in a car accident. He got sideswiped, according to Coach Pittman. So he's been in concussion protocol, actually, so he didn't practice all last week. We expect him to be back this week. Usually it's about a week on concussion protocol. Terry Wells has a back injury, and they're trying to decide what they want to do with that. He wasn't doing a whole lot starting out, and everyone's going out in team. Probably your backup right guard right now, but wasn't doing a lot of stuff in team. And then the last 2 practices, he hadn't even been out there. So they're going to try to figure out what to do with Terry Wells. Jefferson started off strong. Just giving a few of my thoughts here of what we've seen so far. Dwight McGlothern working with the first team. They call him Nudie McGlothern. Working with the first team at left cornerback. They moved Corey Johnson from cornerback to middle safety, backup behind Catalan. They felt like they needed a little more depth there. I mean, they've had Anthony Brown, who's a true freshman, working at backup middle safety, so I can understand, maybe wanting a little bit more experience, maturity there as Anthony Brown continues to develop. They really like him, but it makes sense, I think, to shift over like that. I think we expect all these transfers to definitely eventually emerge as starters, right? McGlothern's the first one to do it, okay? McGlothern's the first one to do it over there, and then you've got Latavius Brini hasn't done it yet, but he's a guy that we got our eye on. According to Pittman, he's starting to kind of look like he remembers, starting to kind of feel some things out. He's going to work at boundary safety, work at nickel some. Maybe this week you see him a little bit more at nickel, possibly. But they're going to work him at both. He wanted to work at both spots, when he was talking about transferring to Arkansas. So he's a guy that we're watching to emerge. I think it's probably with him, maybe a battle with Jaden Johnson, maybe a battle with Simeon Blair. I think that could be the battle. So, but I think eventually we're going to see Brini emerge as a starter. Drew Sanders is another one. When does Drew Sanders emerge and start working with the first group? Now, regardless if he does or doesn't, I think you're going to see a good rotation. You know, it worked last year with 3 linebackers. They stayed fairly healthy all year, so it worked out where they didn't have to have like 4 linebackers. They had a 3-man rotation pretty steady there, and you saw them all pretty much play the same. They all had over 100 tackles last year, so which is a pretty rare feat. So, you know, when's that going to happen? Obviously, Landon Jackson hasn't been practicing, but he's a guy that we would expect to push. I think maybe more of a left-end type. But Pittman likes him as a pass rusher too, so maybe he gets over at the right side. We'll see how it shakes out. But you need more than obviously one guy there. So, your top 2 defensive lines are all going to play a good bit. And then Jaden Hazelwood, I think, is maybe a guy to watch this week to maybe start getting some first-team reps. He had a little bit of a shoulder issue. He's been in a green jersey, which means no contact. But Hazelwood is a guy that we're talking about replacing a significant amount of the production loss by Traylon Burks, right? We're talking about him replacing that production. He hasn't run with the first team at all in the practices we've seen. He hasn't been out there with KJ. Those guys need to start developing some chemistry. Hazelwood's going to end up starting, right? And I understand like the idea of, we want to make sure that you earn this right, earn the starting spot. And like as I've mentioned several times with the 3 defensive linemen who ended up starting last year in fall camp, because they all enrolled after spring, in fall camp they were all third team starting out, okay? And it's just like, you got to earn your way. You got to show that you belong there. And so I would expect we're going to see a few changes, okay, because they've just knocked out 6 practices, so they're over a third of the way through spring ball. This week, we're going to see some guys move up with the first team. We're going to see some guys maybe change some positions a little bit here and there. We're going to see probably a 4-man front. In fact, I would be surprised if I go out there Tuesday and they're not in a 4-man front. Okay, they've been doing 3-man front the entirety of the first 6 practices, and now we're going to see them probably exclusively work on some 4-man front. And then probably at the last third of practices, we'll probably see them mix it up a little bit more. So kind of works in, a little more compartmentalized, broken down like this. Sam Pittman was very complimentary of Jimmy Smith and how he's run that running back room. The reviews for the new assistants from the different players and Sam Pittman, Deke Adams and Dominic Bowman. Deke Adams, I think, was a guy that a lot of fans were, at least on our message board, kind of going like, well, who's this guy, He's older. He's been around the block. Everybody likes a new up-and-comer, right, in which Dominic Bowman kind of fit that mold. But Deke Adams has been doing work in recruiting, and that's what a lot of this has come down to. Like, why are there openings? A lot of it comes down to recruiting. All right, I think I've pretty much covered everything I wanted to talk about in that regard. Any of my special observations that I wanted to go over? I think I pretty much covered. Oh, Marcus Miller's back with the team. He, as it was explained to us, he was with the team, but he wasn't with the team. He wasn't not part of the team, but he wasn't with the team. And now he's back out there. He's got to go through the progressions. He wasn't in full pads on Thursday. He's got to go through. But next week, by the next scrimmage, he should be good to go. What else? I saw Caleb James also. Kane Archer was at practice. Caleb James was at practice. Defensive end commitment. KJ's looked good. I've said before, man, I've been surprised with how crisp they look coming out in the spring. It's like they haven't missed a beat. So let's talk a little bit about the schedule coming up. I'm talking about the season, 2022 football season. Open with Cincinnati Bearcats, all right? We obviously know Cincinnati's been a strong program for a while. I think Arkansas wins this game. It's in Fayetteville. It's a season opener. You got the whole season, off season to prepare for them. Arkansas should win the game. I'm not saying it's going to be easy by any stretch. They got a good program, okay? It's a tough game, tough opener. But I think Arkansas is going to win, and I think they beat South Carolina for the same reason. I think overall Arkansas as a program is ahead of South Carolina, going to have a better quarterback situation, I think. And, even though I know they got to transfer and all that stuff. But what's his name, kid from Oklahoma. But it's in Fayetteville. Arkansas is a little bit farther ahead, I think, as a program. So I'm going to give Arkansas that win. I'm going to give them Missouri State also. Texas A&M and Alabama, let's just say they lose both of those. I think they'll split those games. I think they could possibly get Alabama. Obviously, they beat Texas A&M last year. But let's just say they split them. Or let's just say they lose both of them, okay? just for the topic, just for the reason of this discussion. I don't think that's going to happen, but I don't want to count anything that I don't feel like pretty sure about. All right, Mississippi State. So they lose those two. I don't think they're going to lose 3 in a row, right? They're going to beat Mississippi State at Mississippi State. They just had their number. Even though I really like their quarterback, I just feel like Arkansas is more talented, and they're taking a veteran team down there. So I'm going to give Arkansas the edge there, even though it was very close in Fayetteville last year. At BYU, I think Arkansas's got a better team than BYU. It's at BYU. It's on the road. I could see maybe running into trouble, but I still think Arkansas is going to have the better team. Everybody on BYU is like 25 years old, though, aren't they? So what do I got them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 wins right now entering the bye week. 5-2 going into the bye week. At Auburn, Auburn's a mess right now. I would be surprised if Auburn is good next season. I'm going to give them at Auburn. I'm going to give them that win. I'm not going there because Auburn's press box sucks. They moved it to the corner. I've said it several times. It completely takes you out of the game. It's an awful experience for a media person. I hate it. I'm not going to Auburn. I will not go to Auburn next year. If I go, I'm going to buy a regular ticket and sit in the stands and watch it that way. But I'll be damned if I'm sitting in that awful press box. The big screen, they have one big screen, and it's right next to you. You can't see it. You're in the end zone, way up high as you can get, looking down. I mean, it's a terrible experience to watch a football game. So I'm not going. And it's incredibly difficult to get to. You fly into Atlanta, you got to rent a car, you got to drive 2 hours to get to Auburn. I mean, it's just the whole thing sucks, in my opinion. The whole experience of going to a game at Auburn, in my opinion, is not fun for somebody in my position. Now, if you're going as a fan, maybe it's a different story. And in fact, last year I was actually going to go, or not last year, but the year before last, I was actually going to go during COVID time, but I was going to sit in the stands. I was going to go with some people and sit in the stands, but they had actually invited to fly me over there, which was cool. But there was a storm real bad and ended up getting canceled and everything, so we didn't go. But that was my plan last time. And I was going to do a walk and talk coming out of the stands, which would have been pretty unique, I think. Liberty, I'm going to give them that one. Even though Liberty's got a good program, lost their quarterback, obviously, but they got a good program. So I've got them at 7 wins right now. LSU in Fayetteville. I mean, LSU is all over the place. I know they got talent. They lost a lot of players. I'm going to give them that one. 8. Ole Miss, get a little revenge in Fayetteville. Now, they don't have Matt Corral. They have Dart now. They're retooling a lot of stuff, but it's in Fayetteville. I'm going to give them that one. I'm giving them 9 at this point. And I'm going to give them Missouri. I think their program's going in a different direction. I think this one may end up being in Kansas City also, at Arrowhead, which would be really cool, which I think would be another advantage for Arkansas. So if you're not keeping track, that's 10. Regular season. That's where I'm at right now. That's what I'm thinking. I feel like Arkansas as a brand is going this way, okay? And I don't care what the national media has told you for years. This is where you belong. This is your place. These are your limitations. This is what you should be happy with. No. We're seeing things different. The only problem with Arkansas as an institution is it's not directly close. It's not right next door to Dallas. It's not right next door to Atlanta. Okay? That's the problem. They have to work. They have to go a little bit farther out. They have to get recruits in. It's very important to get recruits in, and we're seeing that happen. I mean, Arkansas has the number 3 ranked recruiting class in the country. Now, you can't tell me that, and I know football in the South is extremely competitive, more competitive than basketball in this conference, more competitive than baseball even in this conference. Okay? Football, everybody puts all their cards in football for the most part. Okay? So it's difficult, but you can't tell me that Arkansas's baseball program can have the success that it's having, drawing talent from all over the place the way it does. You can't tell me that Arkansas's track program, the way it used to be, and it's still very, very good, it's just not as dominant as it was with 42 national championships, drawing talent from all over the world at Arkansas. You can't tell me that you can't recruit other athletes from other sports to Arkansas given that. And I'm going to tell you something else. Arkansas seems to be on top of their game when it comes to the NIL stuff, okay? And we didn't know how it was going to work. I'll tell you how I think it's worked, is I don't think Arkansas was a big cheating program. Now, I think there are programs out there that cheat, that bend the rules, that do stuff. I think that happens. I think obviously it's been uncovered here and there that teams do that kind of stuff. I don't think Arkansas has been, and I think the NIL thing, what we're seeing is maybe it's bridged the gap. Maybe it's created an avenue where the cheaters are being brought more at a level playing field because everybody can do it now. There's not really any such thing as cheating anymore. I mean, there are some rules, but for the most part, these rules are minor infractions. You talk to somebody too long on a visit where you weren't supposed to talk to them. That's going to be that's obviously something you report, but that's not a level 1 type of situation. So I feel like the NIL stuff maybe leveled the playing field a little bit more. I think Arkansas is hot right now in the minds of a lot of recruits. You look at the coaches that they have. You look at the results that we're seeing, like from a future standpoint. Like basketball, obviously went to an Elite Eight. Who's had the success that Arkansas has in the 3 money sports? Baseball's not a money sport for everybody, but at Arkansas it is. It brings in revenue. So baseball, what are they, number 2 right now? That may have changed. They won 2 of 3 against Mississippi State. But baseball, number 5 ranked recruiting class in the country also. Basketball, number 2 ranked recruiting class in the country, just finished an Elite Eight run. Football, just won 9 games. Finished, number 20 or 21 nationally. Number 3 ranked recruiting class in the country. Who can say that? Who's got that? Now, Arkansas is lacking some hardware, but that's what's coming next. They're lacking some hardware. They don't have a national championship. They got a conference championship last year in baseball, obviously, but the season didn't end the way that you wanted it to. Basketball was a top 4 seed. They finished in the Elite Eight. There's not a championship title, or anything there. They weren't cutting the nets down after the Elite Eight game. Football won a bowl game, a solid bowl game, Outback Bowl, 9 wins. They didn't win, a division or anything like that. So there's still some hardware that's missing. But when you talk about just the breadth of it, the overall feeling of your athletic programs, if you're a Razorback fan, you got to be feeling pretty good about the situation right now. And kudos to Hunter Yurachek for getting it done, not just in those sports, but the other ones. I mean, all 19 sports have been pretty solid. All of them. Arkansas baseball, just to touch on that a little bit, where things stand. You got a midweek game coming up against UCA tomorrow, Tuesday, April 5th. That game's at 6 o'clock. So you've had, Mississippi State, they won 8-1, 12-5, and they lost in 12 innings, 5-3 on Sunday. So they took 2 of 3 there. They got UCA April 5th at 6 p.m. And then they travel to Florida for Thursday, Friday, Saturday series at Florida, 5, 5:30, and 12 for those games, starting Thursday, April 7th. Arkansas baseball right now is 21-5 overall, 7-2 in conference, 17-3 at home, 2-1 away, 2-1 neutral. So that's it. All right, everybody. We went long. We're not going to get to questions today, but I appreciate you all listening and tuning in to what I have to say every week. I really do. Also, let me know in the comments below what you think. I started adding press conferences, and I think I'm going to add maybe just the key the thing about press conferences, like, I want the channel to be liked, viewed, shared, all of those things based on the merit of this particular show, HawgSports Live, okay? And so that's why we actually have always done, we do all press conferences. For our members, we post commercial-free press conferences on our message board for free. You don't have to sit through any commercials and stuff. But lately I have put some of the press conferences on here. The thing about it is, if you put a press conference on here that's, maybe it's a player that, that's not as popular as a head coach or a quarterback or something like that, And I like to talk to new faces all the time. I'm always asking the sports information department, hey, when can we talk to these transfers? When can we talk to, so-and-so who might be, starting to see a role, a younger guy that maybe not a lot of people know about. The thing about those is they don't get watched as much as this show would, or a post-game press conference with Sam Pittman or Eric Musselman or something like that. Those, I'm thinking we're always going to start putting those on this channel. But maybe not every press conference that we have, okay? And the reason is just because I have to make sure that the viewership remains high, because if it doesn't, the way the algorithm works, it will hurt the channel, Okay, so that's why we have a separate channel for different shows, different press conferences and stuff like that, because I want the channel to be recognized and the algorithm to work based on the merit of that show or this press conference. Okay. And in retrospect, maybe I should have put Curtis Wilkerson's show on this channel too, because he's done a great job. If you haven't tuned into Hog Hoops Live, then be sure to check out Curtis at Hog Hoops Live. And be sure to sign up at HawgSports.com. It's a great time. It's $1 right now for your first month. The cool thing about the dollar deal at HawgSports, you sign up for $1 to see if you like it. Okay? You like it. After that dollar is up, you're going to go on to just a regular payment method. But the thing is, when you do that, you're also eligible to get Paramount Plus for free. Paramount Plus is usually, it's like, what, $10.99 or something like that a month. So, $120, I think it's $100 for the whole year. For the commercial-free plan, the premium package plan, it's like $100 a year. But you get it for free at HawgSports for as long as you're subscribed. If you're subscribed for the next 5 years, you get Paramount Plus for free for 5 years. It's $500 value for Paramount Plus. And let me tell you something. This network, this Paramount Plus is really taking off. I mean, they have some great shows. I don't know if you guys like Star Trek, and I never was a big Trekkie guy, but I've watched Star Trek Discovery. I never watched any Star Trek stuff. I've watched Picard, which has been fantastic, I think. I've watched, there's some other show. There's 1883. Yellowstone, 1883. I think the next Yellowstone series is also coming out on Paramount Plus. And there's been a lot of other things. I can't remember. There's a couple other shows that I've watched on there. So that is really starting to take. Plus, they've got a ton of movies. I mean, like all the Paramount. And it's like, BET, if you like BET, Comedy Central's on there, Smithsonian, I think. There's all these other, properties that are owned, within the CBS umbrella, all these properties that are owned that are on Paramount Plus. It's really taken off as a streaming, kind of like a must-have type of streaming service, like right up there with like Netflix and some of the others, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus. Those are like, to me, like things you got to kind of have in this day and age if you like watching shows and TVs and stuff, which I do. HBO Max is another one that I really love. So you get it for free. So $1 you sign up at HawgSports. Test it out for a month. You're going to like it. You're going to love it. That's how we get you through the door. I don't want to say we trick you into getting through the door, but that's what we do. We get you through the door because that's the hardest thing for us to do. And once we get you through there, you'll see why we're one of the 10 largest sites in the whole 24/7 sports network at Arkansas, at a place where population-wise we shouldn't be there. Should we be top 25? Sure. But based on the numbers of this state, we shouldn't be in the top 10, but we're not just in the top 10 easily. And we work our tails off. We want to be the best, and I think our numbers are supporting that, and we're going to keep pushing. That's what we always do. Every time, we hit a surge in growth, we add back to the product. We add Curtis Wilkerson to cover basketball. Added Andrew Ellis for baseball. I mean, I can remember when it was like me and Otis was part-time, but it was really just me like doing the stuff daily, like walking around like Dick Van Dyke with a camera, a still camera, a recorder, audio recorder, a notebook, a backpack, something, between my legs, like holding another notebook between my legs, trying to do everything, going from every sport, all that kind of stuff. And it's, we've been able to expand a lot and do a whole lot more. And it's thanks to all of you guys for subscribing. Just super appreciative that you guys let us do this job. And, of course, I know I'm going on and stuff, but it really means a lot. And also, those of you who just take in our free content, because we are, revenue driven based on advertising, and we like to show you our ads too. So if you want to come read our free stuff, we certainly appreciate you. But I just can't say enough about the support that we've had over the last, I've been doing this for 19 years where we keep getting bigger and bigger, and it means a lot. It means a lot that you guys take in our content and appreciate the things that we do and try to do stuff differently, try to cover things from different angles. And you guys have been really receptive to that, so appreciate that so much. All right, everybody, thank you again for watching. Thank you for being part of HawgSports.com. I want to really thank Danny West for joining on and providing his insight with Razorback recruiting. And until next time, this has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and we will catch you next time.